An entire shift of hospital workers refused to do their jobs, so one person drove 40 minutes away and left them all stranded. By the time the boss found out, it was already too late, and the best part? They were following his exact orders. This is what happens when you give someone authority but forget to give them a title. Let's get into it. I worked at a county psychiatric emergency services unit for 8 years, 24-hour operation, 3 shifts attached to a hospital. Our job was evaluating people for civil commitment, going out to other hospitals, homes, jails. Most staff treated those outreach calls like the plague. I treated them like Christmas morning. See, the typical staff would handle 1, maybe 2 cases per shift. If the patient was from our own ER and could be admitted locally, that staffer might actually work 2 hours out of an 8-hour shift. The rest? Chatting, answering crisis calls, doing everything humanly possible to avoid getting assigned another case. 2 hours of work in an 8-hour shift? That's not a job, that's a vacation with a lanyard. I need to work there. I like to stay busy. Downtime on the crisis unit was torture for me. I'd routinely take second cases just to keep moving, which meant I was staying past my shift end because I hated handing cases off at shift change. Too much information got lost in the handoff. So I requested a custom shift, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., right in the sweet spot when cases were ramping up. Got approved. This person asked for more work hours during the busiest part of the day, on purpose. That's not dedication, that's a cry for help. My new shift was embraced by the rest of the day crew, who mostly did not want outreach cases. Within weeks, staff who arrived at 7 a.m. would sit around for 3 hours while cases piled up because they knew I would want to go out on a call right away. Which was true, but it tells you everything you need to know about the attitudes on that unit. Now here's where it gets interesting. The actual 3 to 11 evening supervisor, Marcus, worked another full-time job and didn't show up until around 5:30 p.m. That meant the day supervisor, Rachel, would give me the shift report every day so I could pass it to Marcus. Because of this consistency, other departments started thinking I was an actual supervisor. I was getting called for consults, sign-offs, problem cases, clinical decisions. So this person is doing supervisor work, making supervisor decisions, getting supervisor phone calls, and getting paid exactly 0 supervisor dollars. That's called volunteering, and I don't do that, not even for myself. And here's the beautiful part. I was only the supervisor when it was convenient for everyone else. Difficult patient? Argument with another facility? Tough call nobody wanted to make? Oh, that was all me. But the second I tried to assign a case between 3 and 5:30, suddenly everyone had amnesia. We'll wait for Marcus, he's the real supervisor. Which was fair, because I wasn't.
Marcus would roll in at 5:30 and find cases that had been sitting since 3 p.m. He'd want to know why no one had started them. I'd shrug, explain my position. He'd sigh and start assigning work. Meanwhile, other facilities had been calling for hours, asking for updates and complaining about delays. The unit director, Greg, got wind of these complaints and pulled me aside. I laid it all out. I told him I was not a supervisor, not in title, not in pay, and the staff knew I had no authority to make them do anything. Greg said he didn't have a job title or funds to give me a supervisor role. I told him I didn't want to be the interim supervisor anymore, ever. His response? He said my judgment was more trusted than most staff, that I had more training, I was finishing my doctorate while the job only required a master's, and that I took the work seriously. His solution? He walked me right back onto the unit floor in front of everyone and announced that I could assign cases to anyone I wanted. Greg just gave this person a sword made of clouds. Sounds impressive, can't actually cut anything because he cannot put it in writing. No title means no authority, which means human resources would back any staffer who refused. Beautiful. That was it. No title, no pay raise, just a verbal announcement in a room full of people who did crossword puzzles for a living. The following 2 days, cases came in. I asked staff to go. They declined. We sat and waited for Marcus. Then day 3 happened. Around 3:15 p.m., a call came in from Riverside Hospital, the farthest facility in our county, 40 minutes away. A patient had assaulted 2 other patients and a nurse. This was a priority case. Someone could get hurt. I announced the case to the staff. I saw nothing but eye rolls and people going back to their crossword puzzles and books. I suggested a couple of staff members who'd be best suited. No response. Not even a no. Not even a no. They just pretended this person didn't exist, like a ghost with a clipboard. I respect the audacity, but also someone is literally getting hurt at another hospital right now. So I thought about what Greg said. I could assign cases to anyone I wanted. Anyone. I went to the logbook, assigned the case to myself, grabbed the keys to a unit vehicle, and walked out without saying a single word. I often walked around the hospital, so nobody questioned me leaving. I was almost at Riverside when my cell phone rang. It was Tanya, one of the evening staff. Our inpatient unit needed a consult. I told her she should handle it, and I hung up. She should handle it. 4 words, the beginning of the end. I love it. 20 minutes later, Mia calls. She says the inpatient psychiatrist called back asking when the consult would be done. I ask why Tanya hadn't done it. Mia says the shift discussed it, and they felt it would be better if I dealt with the psychiatrist. The shift discussed it. They had a little committee meeting over their crossword puzzles and decided the person who was 40 minutes away should handle it. That's not a decision, that's a delusion. I told Mia that if the consult was urgent, one of them would have to do it because I wasn't coming back for a long time. Mia goes quiet. Then she says, "A long time? Aren't you in the ER?"
I say, no, I'm at a Riverside hospital. You could hear the panic through the phone, that beautiful, beautiful sound of people realizing they messed up. I live for that sound. I'd bottle it if I could. 15 minutes later, Greg calls me from home because Greg leaves at 3 p.m. every day. This man clocks out at 3 p.m. sharp every single day. That's not a work schedule, that's a lifestyle. I aspire to be Greg. I answer and quickly tell Greg I'll have to call him back. I'm in a tense situation with the patient I'm seeing, and I hang up. Greg calls the hospital directly, gets patched through to me, asks where I am and why, and I deliver the line I'd been saving for 2 days. You told everyone on the unit that I could assign cases to anyone I wanted, so I assigned this one to me. I told him the rest. I'd suggested other staff take the case. No one wanted it. I couldn't make them, and this was a priority. A patient had already assaulted 2 patients and a nurse. Someone needed to get there, and I was almost finished handling it before Marcus had even arrived to assign it to anyone else. The point Greg could not argue against. I was not going to sit around waiting while someone else might get hurt. Greg couldn't say a word. I wasn't there for whatever Greg said to the staff afterward, but I was told he was absolutely livid. He told them that while I was not a supervisor in title, any assignment from me was to be viewed as backed directly by him, and refusals would be considered insubordination, grounds for suspension or termination. And just like that, the crossword era was over. From that day on, when I handed someone a case and caught even a flicker of attitude, I'd hold up the case file, look them dead in the eye, and say 2 words, "You or me." And every single time, they'd grab that case right out of my hand and get to work. All right, my people, let's break this down. Gotta give credit, this person used the system's own words against it. Assigned to anyone I want? Bet. Assigned it to themselves and drove into the sunset while the whole building fell apart. That's chess, not checkers. Now, what was dumb? Doing 2.5 years of free supervisor work without raising a stink sooner. That's not dedication, that's charity. And I don't do charity. I barely do paid work. Here's my advice. If your boss gives you power but won't put it in writing, don't waste time begging people to respect you. Just find the most inconvenient possible moment, remove yourself from the equation entirely, and let everything collapse. They'll put it in writing after that. Trust me. Actually, don't trust me. I once gave directions to a guy and he ended up in a lake. But the principle is sound.
If you've ever been given responsibility with zero authority and found a way to make everyone regret it, drop that story in the comments. I want the details. I want the drama. Subscribe, or don't, but you'll be back. They always come back. Hades out.